So we, have our areas of wellness, and right now we're starting to roll that out. A lot of facilities, all things you. And what we're trying to do is help people find or improve some of those areas that may be lacking, find balance if one area is getting all the attention. So we talk about things like spiritual wellness, financial wellness. So if you guys got any money, we'll take it. Mental health, that kind of awareness, professional development awareness, occupational awareness, environmental, and I'm probably missing a few here.
You always ask me.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm the one that invented it. So there you go. Not invented it, but Stephanie, when she was with us, we kind of conceptualized it. Yeah. So knowing spiritual, financial, kind of mental health, physical health, medical health, professional, occupational, and environmental. We don't mean like not polluting. We mean like your physical environment that you keep. Yeah, the company you keep
as well.
Yeah, social, relational, romantic. Maybe we could share a little bit about either past and how you did or didn't hit those things, how you do now. Maybe what you've learned, some of the areas of wellness that you think are most lacking for folks in corrections, however you want to tackle that question.
I think Howie and I can discuss a little bit. I mean, he hired in 1989. I was 19. You were 18?
I was 18, yeah.
Okay. That was before cell phones. Obviously, you guys know that. I don't have to talk to you like you're idiots, because you know that.
And before the internet?
Before the internet.
I was one.
Well, Joe wouldn't know that because he was 1 year old.
Yeah, but people were a lot different.
Kindergarten.
Don't you agree, Howie?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because if you and I were out on a date, not us together, but you know what I mean.
It'd be fine if you were.
Let's not Chuck and Larry or whatever that show was about the fire guys and the insurance. But anyway, let's say hypothetically you're out on a prom date with your girl and out parking somewhere and you get a flat tire. Guess what? You don't have a cell phone to pull up.
Yeah, you're fixing your flat.
You're fixing your flat or your butt is walking.
Yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the hires of today are exposed to so much more than what we were. But that initial page that we're looking at, we're scrolling, they're exposed to so much more. But there's such a lack of inner maturity, maybe that because of the lack of communication skills.
Exactly.
That when they walk into corrections, man, they got to keep their cell phones in their vehicle. Did you remember them sprinting out to their car in their lunch break?
Well, and the cell phone is just not how they reach people for a younger generation, especially folks coming in 18 to early 20s. So they've had COVID, where they've literally not been able to have the physical proximity to friends or a romantic partner, certain family members, and then they've grown up with this thing attached to them.
Yeah,
I mean, I hear about Elon Musk and the Neuralink. I'm like, why do we need to put something in us? This thing is right here, right by us the whole time.
Some freaky stuff.
So
I've researched that.
Yeah, I won't be the first one to do it.
No, absolutely not.
I won't be the last either. But anyway, yeah, that generation grows up, and tons of great movies, documentaries, books on how addictive these things are and how they're wired. A lot like slot machines used to be, right? That kind of intermittent reinforcement. They grew up with that, right? We are what's being sold. The phone is not the product. And these kids, you got a cell phone when you're how old? Your first one. Probably the bag phone or that. Probably thought you were real cool when you got that Razor for the first time.
Yeah, I had a bag phone when I lived in Florida in 1993. I was 23 years old and thought it was the best thing in the world because I had a little Cavalier sports car, a little blue one, a black spoiler, and a little splash on the side. And, oh boy, spandex shorts on.
He was like a fly boy for living color.
I'm just rocking down the beach down at Cocoa Beach and thinking I am the shiznit. You know, it is, what a joke. What a joke. But
Listening to Vanilla Ice.
yeah, I was.
A1A Beach One Avenue.
When I turned 21, I saw him live down in Collinsville.
He went there, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a joke. He's like, oh yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, your first cell phone obviously didn't have anything on it. You barely worked. Minutes were
Cost you
expensive.
$8 a minute to call.
Yeah,
I called
right.
back to Carlisle, Illinois from Lakeland, Florida. And my mom's like, Robbie, you can't be talking that long. I go, Mom, I'm all right.
I got a cell phone midway through college, and you could play like Tetris or Snake or something.
Was it a flip thing?
No, there was a Nokia that was, like the blue ones, and you could snap the case off the top. I didn't have enough money to get a flip phone yet, but like no camera, no nothing. Just a black and kind of green screen. The Razors were the first cool phones, and they had this Bluetooth thing.
Absolutely, those were the coolest times.
But we didn't grow up with that, so we had 18, 20 some odd years to develop our minds by doing all these other things. So this new generation, the world's always going to move on. We're always going to have new technology, new things to come on.
And when dealing with this new generation, whether they come in waves, as far as the academy, Decatur, here, wherever they're going, or the institutions and the sergeants that got to deal with them, the SEALs that's been there a while, have to take that into account.
Yeah.
This is a different generation of people, especially, if it's younger. Sometimes you'll mix in some older guys like my buddy from Carlisle who's just got out of academy. He's even older than me. But you just got to know what you're dealing with and understand. Maybe have a little bit more patience. One thing, a little bit off track here, but we were talking about maybe how I can get in on this. When I was young, I made a lot of silly mistakes that I talked about. Is I was on 3 to 11 shift in Mandalay. My wife and I and 2 kids lived in Charlotte. Well, I'd get off work at 11 and be like, hey, you know what? That's about a 45, 50-minute ride. Wife and kids are in bed. Everybody else is going to the local bar, the depot downtown. Well, hey, Chico's out. Let's roll him. Let's go. One thing I could say to the younger people that may be in that situation, that have a family at home, a wife, kids, even a dog, I don't care what it is, get your butts home. Take account. Get your priorities straight. Realize some of the mistakes you could be making by going out with the group from work. Develop those relationships.
So, that group from work going out, yes, that could be social awareness and social wellness in some situations, right? But taking for granted those romantic, those family relationships that are really paramount to everything you do to recreating life.
Yes.
Don't take those for granted, right? They're sort of like plants. You don't put them in sunlight. You don't give them food and water. They don't live.
Right. And
they don't grow.
That stuff will come back and bite you in the butt for many years later. And it still does to me to this day. Now, do you have to forgive yourself eventually for the person that you were back then? Absolutely. You can't keep carrying that baggage.
Well, what would you say to yourself? So that portal you were talking about earlier, you go back and you want to impress upon the 26, 30-year-old you that's making those choices to, do those fun things or maybe taking you astray. What would you say back then that maybe would have got you back on track more quickly?
Find yourself. Find out what is really important to you. Is it that next, again, I'm keeping it clean, is it that next romp in the hay with somebody? Or is it about getting home and seeing your daughter sleeping in the bed, Yeah, and I get a little choked up on this. My oldest daughter is 30. We don't talk anymore. We've had a falling out. But yeah, and a lot of that links back to that time in my life. Making those stupid decisions and not getting my butt home. I'm not talking just 1 or 2 nights a year. I'm talking 2, 3 nights a week. And coming home at 6 in the morning and the wife knows where you've been, what you've been doing, and your little daughter's waking up wanting to see daddy, and daddy's got to get some sleep. I was a POS. I really was. But if I could go back and tell that Chico, hey, pull your head out of the butt, maybe get some help if you need it. Find your spirituality. That's what really got me going back in 2015. It really turned the table for me. But looking within what I really need and why I was doing what I was doing.
Filling a void is what it sounds
yes,
like.
Exactly.
Right? We learned that with substance abuse. One of the old classical theories is symptom substitution. When you quit drinking, you're going to do something else unhealthy until you fill that void with something more pro-social or healthy, right? So if there's a part of you that's missing, something you need to get, you get it in a negative way, it's never going to have a good payoff. Finding, and I think one of the things that you see, Chico, like you said, you started really, you still consumed after you quit drinking, but you consumed knowledge, right? You started
Yes.
reading books like a maniac.
Yes.
We're talking to
I have
meditating,
thousands of
exercising, doing all this stuff to try to make yourself a better person, to fill up, what the drinking is.
And the books weren't just there to absorb and read and put down. They become workbooks. They become study books. It kind of started with a Buddhist Tao principle. And it kind of got into every religion imaginable, every self-help book imaginable. I had it pumped into my ears and my earbuds just to NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, just to change that programming in my head. And it made a big difference. But all that stuff, whatever helps you, hey man, if I can help one person pull their head out of their butt and get their butts home and maybe look within and pick up a book that helped them. Catanera Spinaris, is that her name?
Yeah,
That brought the, what's it called?
Desert Waters Outreach, and she does a lot of the
Right.
curriculum. I know there's the CO2 fractions.
In part teaching that was
Yeah.
the idea with Amy Beck, who's another good friend of mine, a wonderful woman. Remember that part in that it talked about silent witness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we are. That's who you are, is that silent witness that is sitting back and you can look at your thoughts, but man, that's not me. Sit back and become aware of what's going on up here and make different decisions. And it's all the young people, man, woman, whatever. Be aware of what's going on. Be aware of who you affect by some of the decisions you make. And long term, the world's a different world today, but there's still a lot of the same issues going on, I'm sure, inside the prison system. You develop relationships with people. A lot of times that's good. A lot of times, if you let it go too far, that can be bad. That can affect you outside. So think about the long-term consequences before you make rash decisions.
Yeah, and kind of to your point, tying that in with the cell phone generation, right? Things that take hard work and time to get, to achieve, to process, whatever, tend to have a much bigger kind of neuro chemistry payoff than those things that come quick. So
Absolutely.
a night of drinking can be fun once in a while if done responsibly, right? A romp in the hay, whatever, right? But those things come and go. And easy come, easy go, but achieving something, setting out a goal, like whether it was fitness or reading so many books,
Or even being married.
losing weight, or getting in a relationship and improvement, whatever it is, those things have a big payoff.
When people I run into, when they have say you got an anniversary of 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, it almost breaks me down in tears of happiness. It's like, man, good for you. I'm so happy for you. I'm on my third marriage, and you total them up, and it don't even equal 15. So I can joke about it. But you know what? Now I feel I have the right woman. I have a wonderful wife. But meeting her was from a different Chico than what that Chico in the past was. And I take responsibility for those relationships. And I feel like I threw a lot of negative things in those relationships and come out on the other side. And I've tried to mend those. I've apologized for those. But I cannot keep beating myself up for it. I got to move on. I was that person at that time. But now I'm a different person. I'm doing the best that I can, and I'll continue to do the best that I can. But back to the awareness, man. Your family has got to be so important. If it's not working out at home, hey, then you go in different directions. Maybe go to a marriage counselor. Go see a priest. Do what you got to do to try to work it out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But don't throw stuff on that ice cream to make it even worse. With going out every night and partying.
Well,
I like to say, close one door before you open another.
Yeah.
And if the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence, maybe you ought to start watering your own grass.
Exactly. And Howie
Probably got the same story.
just slapped me upside the head with absolute truth. And that's a perfect way to put it. I wasn't watering my own grass. I wasn't seeing my daughters wake up in the morning. If I was, it was through Miller Lite and tequila eyes. I mean, it's a sick, disgusting thing, but it's tough to talk about now, but maybe it'll help somebody.
We talked in the past episodes when it comes to how our kids just observe and just soak up everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
They learn from more of your actions than
Yeah.
they do your words. They watch your every
The kids are
move.
sponges. They don't have
Right.
the meaning-making devices that totally understand what all that means, but they're soaking it up because nothing is preventing them from perceiving, even though they
Exactly.
gotta make sense of it.
I think social wellness is so important just to break down like we've done so far because there's so many levels within that branch of wellness. When it comes to balancing our social work life, to balancing our family life at the same time, throwing in the kids, throwing in the job, throwing in sleep, throwing in extra fun things and hobbies we like to do.
Exactly.
But at the same time, sometimes getting that negative one can just be that domino effect everywhere else we do with all of wellness.
Yeah, I had a basketball coach one time say this. I don't think it was original to him, but the negatives always hurt more than the positives feel good.
Oh, absolutely. You hear a lot of coaches. I don't know if you guys are really like sports fans. Which I'm not a big fan of the Patriots. I'm a Steeler guy, but Bill Belichick.
He's got the shirt on.
I got the shirt on.
He ain't lying.
Frankly, Harris, rest in peace. One of the most amazing men I've ever met in my life. But like Bill Belichick talks, probably one of the greatest coaches ever. I can't stand the Patriots.
Arguably, yeah.
Yeah, but they talk about, they remember the losses more than they remember the wins.
Yeah.
And it can be a domino effect if you allow that emotion to take over and streamline, boom, 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 knock everything down. But if you ride out that emotion a little bit and curtail it, and become aware of it, you can cut that stuff off, but you got to fix it too.
Yeah.
You can't just allow it to fester and allow that lack of communication with the spouse or the kids to continue on. You got to open up. And don't use that beer bottle or that tequila shot or that hit of weed to open up. Do it on your own. Come from the heart. Open up to the family.
Now, I've said that when I used to have to teach those cycle trainings and stuff and bring that up to folks on managing those relationships from the start, because it's not easy. Like we've all said, it's easier to understand people in the biz, or at least people in a similar. There's kind of an unspoken language. You said there's energy, there's vibes, there's things you don't have to talk about that are just understood. But, that's always going to be easier. But if you don't kind of bring your spouse, your kids up to kind of an appropriate level, do they need to know everything? No.
That's
Right? But let them into your world enough to where they can support you and they feel a part of it. Right? And we don't do a good job kind of bridging that gap. I want to just protect my wife. She doesn't need to know that, we had somebody in custody throwing shit at people and doing this, and Johnny got hit in the face and he had to go out and get stitches and it was almost me. She doesn't need to know that. I don't want her worrying.
This is a good question for both of you guys on that topic. At what point, excuse me, in you guys' career did you realize I need to talk to my spouse about what I deal with at work?
Which one? Not trying to get a joke, but yeah, that's a tough question.
I'll focus on my current one because when she and I got together, I'd already been in DOC for 11 years. So
She
didn't know me pre-DOC. Yeah. Okay, so when we got married, I was 29. I think she was 30. She got a job with the Canton School District. She was a teacher's aide special ed. Obviously, I've been doing corrections for a while. Those two environments, believe it or not, those two environments are very similar.
Yes.
So she kind of sort of already got it. As far as the DOC side of it went, and as far as her side of it went, both of my parents were teachers. So I understood that environment too. So I didn't have the struggle with trying to communicate with the spouse that a lot of DOC people do. So again, I think I was blessed there. As far as kids go, her son, he's been working for DOC for 4 years now. He grew up in a DOC household, so he kind of sort of already knew.
Which, Howie, wouldn't you agree that a lot of teachers are kind of similar to us? I mean, it's a controlled environment, so they get a lot.
Yeah, and
a lot of impossible goals to meet too.
Well,
right? You got 30 kids in your class, all at different levels.
I'll put my wife out there. Her best friend is a fellow teacher's aide. She doesn't have a huge amount of relationships with people that are either not my friends or not in the teaching field,
industry, right.
Just because they can't relate.
Yeah.
So she's probably going to be mad at me for bringing that up.
But that makes absolute sense.
Again, I got lucky when I found her. I didn't have a lot of the issues that I watched a lot of other people struggle with as far as their spouse goes. And same thing with the fire department side of it. There's a lot of nasty stuff I've seen over the years that I've shared with her, but I don't give her the full incident report. I give her the
appropriate
bullet points.
Yeah.
So she feels like she's in on it, but you still can, maintain some of that.
Yeah.
Now, do you recall a time or a topic that was difficult to share with her and how you overcame it or anything?
I think probably one of the toughest things we ever went through as a couple was when my dad committed suicide. because her dad had committed suicide when she was 19 or 20, I think.
My gosh.
Yeah, so, the day he died, I was at work when I got the phone call. And of course, I went flying out to the farm and I called her on the way there. Told her, hey, get out to the farm. Dad shot himself. I don't know if he's alive or not. So when I got out there, everybody was already there, cops, ambulance, all that stuff. Dad's gone, and I lost it. I was a basket case immediately. She pulled up about 10 minutes later, and as soon as I saw her, but she couldn't get in the driveway, so she had to park with the neighbors. I see her walking down the road, and she's just obviously bawling her eyeballs out because she's figured it out by then. As soon as I saw that, I had to flip that switch. I had to get my shit, pardon my language, I had to get my stuff together to take care of her. And up to that point, on the anniversary of her dad's death, obviously she was always down.
Yeah.
And she always told me, you'll never understand it. Guess what? I understand it now. I wish I didn't have to.
Tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's another one of those incidents. Obviously, that's the worst day of my life. I could either let it define me or try to do something positive with it. And it took me about 4 years when staff wellness came around to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and much like Chico, there's videos, podcasts, and stuff of Howie out there kind of sharing his story and opening it up and being vulnerable in hopes that even one person is helped. So, we don't have to rehash it all out for you, but we do appreciate the both of you, kind of coming in and being vulnerable with that difficult stuff.
No, it's and I know Chico will agree with me, if us telling our stories could help somebody try to avoid some of the pitfalls that we found ourselves in, why would we not get out there and share?
That's why we're here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Staff Wellness certainly gives an avenue.
Oh, sure.
For that.
Yeah, because there was nothing like this up until, 2017, I think it was. Anytime up to then, something bad happened, whether it was at the facility or outside the facility, like a staff suicide or whatever, man, they whitewashed it quick and, hey, get your butt to work, get that incident report written, and you better be here tomorrow.
We talked about it as well last episode. We're going to dive back into that again. I think this is the perfect time. We're not mentally prepared for this job.
Right.
We'll never be mentally prepared. Physically, we know what to expect, but mentally, we'll never know. And kind of what you guys are here for is, well, you guys are a resource for the younger staff and for the current staff. You guys are that positive resource out there that people can watch and listen to and learn from. And at the same time, you guys can help those of us who's working be louder than the negative energy that just drowns corrections in general.
It has for decades, unfortunately. And like you said, the primary word you said was drowning out. I mean, if you can get more people on board. I saw a huge difference in Vandalia. We had some naysayers when SWRT started, but you know what? A lot of even guys that I hired in with, they turned the corner. They started understanding. Yep. I mean, unfortunately, we had some staff suicides at Vandalia, but a lot of people that you would think, hey, this he's not on board. He could give a rat's butt about what's going on. They actually turned the corner, but that's got to continue. It's got to continue at every training, every time they do training. Anytime somebody's got something going on, man, your sergeants, your lieutenants, your wardens, I don't care who it is, you've got to approach these people, and it's okay. It's okay to be scared. Justify those feelings. It's all right to be nervous. It's all right to be hurt. It's okay. It's how you deal with those emotions is what's going to get you through, not letting them carry you.
And I look at it, it's not always the right time. Circumstances are different for everybody. But the more seeds we plant, the more comfort and trust and knowing that you've got peers out there who have your back, have resources, are trying to do the right thing. One of those seeds is going to eventually grow.
Yeah. And as for the current team members, I get it. There's a lot of frustration out there for a million different reasons. Think back to why you got on this team in the first place. And that should be your...
Right. It's not just that.
That's your cornerstone.
It's not just putting this WRT on your memo or whatever.
Right.
It's about why
to help
did you
people out, because, again, I was around a long time, and just at my facility alone, I counted them up one day, and I forgot what the number is, but there was probably close to a dozen staff suicides at Eleanor
throughout the years
during my career, and that every one of them, it was just a gut punch.
Yeah. And we've looked at historically some of our staff members' suicides and what we know. Unfortunately, we don't always know the whole story. And certainly, work is only one part of what goes into someone's life.
Right.
Relationships, their own mental health, financial issues. It's not all work related, but our prisons have kind of a unique culture that they carry on whether we're there or not. A lot of them are in kind of areas where that's the best job, right? So there's just a lot of complex things that go into life at a prison and the resources that are or are not available to folks.
Well, life's tough already, and then you go to work for DOC. And go to work for DOC when we did, and it's been said before, nobody ever talked about this stuff. Oh, if you were the guy that said, hey, I need to go talk to somebody, man, you're the outcast.
Yeah,
your career is over.
I got cuckoo for cocoa.
Your week would never trust him in a situation again.
Exactly.
Yep, and that's crazy.
And like I said, at Bandera, I feel that before I left, a lot of people had turned the corner.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic to see.
Well, and when I was the regional coordinator for the Northland site visits, when I first got that spot, and I'm going to use Dixon as an example. Myself and Lacey went up to Dixon one day for
Shout out to Mike Lacey.
Yeah, I don't remember what we were there for, but we went over to the X House, and there was a bunch of staff there because that building is obviously very well staffed. And when they saw us, they scattered. They really didn't know who we were, and then we're going around, trying to talk to people, trying to do our thing. A few months later, we went back up there and went to the X House. It was me and Lacey again. When we walked into the building, there was 2 officers up in the bubble in the control room. So we went up there to start talking to them. Within 10 minutes, we had probably 8 or 10 staff up there because they knew who we were. They bought into it. They were comfortable with us. They trusted us. That team was, I couldn't say enough good things.
There's some great people at Dixon.
Oh, yeah.
Some amazing people at Dixon.
Yeah.
The first they got to deal with.
I know it.
Yeah.
So
when I went back to Van and was telling some of the stories, are you kidding?
Yeah, so I'm going to set Illinois River out because people, it's just like everywhere else, everybody gravitates towards the negative. Oh, Illinois River's so screwed up. Okay, go to Pontiac for a day. Go to Dixon for a day. Go to wherever. And when I get back home to Illinois River, I kiss the ground.
That's the way I was at Van. Absolutely.
You talk about when you went to Dixon. I remember the time when I first met you. I saw you. You were a sergeant at the time, and then when you got promoted to counselor, I never saw you again, really.
Different shifts.
Yeah. But you pulled me when Illinois River, we lost a staff member. You knew I was really, really good friends with. I don't know who told you to come talk to me, but someone told you, someone of the staff wellness, I didn't know what staff wellness was at the time. You pulled me in the back of the control, and both doors shut. You talk about how whenever staff wellness shows up, everyone scatters, right? So that whole week when staff wellness showed up at Illinois River, I was on my wing every single time I could. Or, that week, if I didn't
Pull that beanie down. No, good.
Yeah, you can't see me. Or I just called in. But somehow you trapped me in the back of the car. I don't know if you planned it with a control officer. Both doors actually shut.
Trap.
And he goes, hey, Joe, my name's Howie. I'm with the staff wellness team. I know you work here. I know you're friends with the guy. You checked on me. And that was the first time my wife, because it was an emotional time for me, because at the time I was struggling with my depression. At the time I was struggling with my anxiety. And then you lose a friend who you never expect to lose. We all know when we lose somebody, we're going to lose somebody with, age and time, and that all happens. My wife found, my note. I was to the point when I genuinely believed I was broken, and you were one of the first people to pull me aside and check on me. And it was one of the first seeds that was planted in me. And then when it came to William Young's book, When the Home Becomes a Housing Unit, and then when it came to my wife and my family and my mom literally pulling me aside and says, you need to speak and to get help. You need to be more honest. And that was when I realized I needed to acknowledge my mental health. And in corrections, at the time I was very new. I only thought I knew that it was, if you talk about it, you're weak.
Yeah.
Right? You talk about it, no one's ever going to trust you.
Initial stigma.
Staff wellness is soft. Soft staff wellness is the piece.
So instead, right, you should, hold it inward. Get
yes, absolutely.
Suffer needlessly, sleep worse, make your family miserable.
Waste part of your life.
Yeah, potentially mess up a decent career.
But it was one of those defining moments we all kind of have those moments in our lives when we realize that switch needs to happen, right? But it's got to be this experiential moment, right? It can't just be like, oh, you read something, oh, yeah, I should go get help, right? No. You have to have, in my experience,
Well, trapped or not, but most people have this big aha moment that's as much emotional as it is cognitive and spiritual, right?
It's
So
not,
it can't just be
it's
like,
not manufactured.
yeah, I'm sick, I should go get help. It's this soul
It's
search. You feel it all over your body,
It's organic.
right? Yeah.
It's natural.
And without that, and
we've talked about it as well. Once we acknowledge that moment, and once we realize, and I've said this on Bill Young's, Just Corrections episodes as well, you're not broken. We're just bent, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're slightly fractured. And that's so
now
key to
you're close to
understand.
Matchbox 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my generation. So
I mean, as long as you're alive, you can fight.
Yeah.
You can keep living. And then, I dealt with depression, anxiety, things like that my whole life. And a lot of times I dealt with it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
I thought going to the gym or stepping into a cage match was healing me. I thought beating up the bag, bench pressing, squatting, getting a good looking body was I'm dealing with my depression. Man, it's a lot deeper than that. That's only part of it. You got to balance that out. It's so mental and emotional.
Yeah.
And so many times, as laymen, we don't understand that because we're not taught anything about emotions in school. We're not taught how to deal with emotions.
Maybe now school's different, I don't know, but
And
you're certainly not taught how to navigate a complex medical system with
right.
weird copays, referrals, who's qualified to do what, what's the difference between this position and that position, where do I start with help? At best, you sort of, I tell a friend or I tell my mom or my wife,
Right.
At best, we don't do a good job, I think, educating the public and bridging that gap and hoping, because at staff wellness, we're not those providers, so to speak. I mean, I am a provider, but not to staff in that manner, but we're really looking at, and I know we've got an outside agency, the
First responder.
So we're building some things where we can help have that warm handoff. So when we're there, we plant the seeds. When somebody's ready to bite, we can have that quick handoff so we're not losing any opportunities.
We also have PSP available to staff as well.
Yeah.
And I know Illinois River and some other facilities as well throughout the region have different other compiled list of local resources that accept our insurance. So
Well, it's got to be there to me on a level that's personal. In other words, correction staff, if you're listening to this, and hopefully you do, and there's days when you want to hide in a closet, you don't want to see the world, let alone go work in a prison, get you some help. It's okay.
Right.
There's a lot of people that's been there. I'm one of them.
And that is an okay feeling, and I don't think you realize how many people, whether it's corrections or anywhere else, have pretty similar feelings on and off throughout their life. For as a mental health professional, right, we don't pathologize that until it gets to the point to where it's impacting kind of basic ability to take care of yourself and relationships.
To take a shower.
One of the first questions, that when I meet with patients, you think I'm crazy, right? I got to be crazy. I got to be the worst patient you've ever seen. No, I do have one that was the worst I've ever had. That was a tough one. But no, what I have learned on my side of the coffee table, so to speak, is not how broken we are, but how resilient we are. Because I have met people from all walks of life with different, hereditary or genetic components to mental health, terrible experiences and environments, different personalities, and people get through that. People manage to have great, meaningful lives where they make impacts with other people. So I just don't see it as broken. If you had diabetes, you might try to change your diet, but you can't make insulin yourself. Right?
Environments can be so challenging because all 4 or 5 of us in this room have been raised differently, raised by different people, interacted with different people at impressionable ages up to the age of 7 and then beyond that. And we don't understand that's like a little tape playing on our head constantly, or a record. A lot of people don't even know what a record is. Or maybe a CD.
I got a record player.
I don't know why you're looking at me. I have a record player in my basement.
Good for you.
I love my record player.
But we get that playing on our head over and over and over. And, I'm dealing with depression. I'm dealing with anxiety. And we use that as a crutch. I did for many years. Well, I didn't show up to work for a week. Well, Chico's dealing with depression. Then when I finally looked in the mirror and said, you know what? They're the captain, your mom, your wife, your ex-wife. They're not the issues here. You're the issue, and you got to love yourself. And let's get some help, man. Let's dig out of this hole, get some help, because you owe you, not just the people around you. You owe you a good life, because we get one shot at this. So let's make it work. And in corrections, you might say, "Oh man, it's a shitty job. The governor's coming down on us." It's a darn good job, regardless of what tier you're at. A lot of people
Yeah.
would love to have this job. Once this economy changes, man, people are going to be coming to this job. You guys have got a good job out there. Take advantage of it. And it's okay if you need some help. It's okay if you're feeling lost. If you're feeling like, man, this is a hopeless situation. You know, PSP, SWRT is at every institution for you. You know, reach out. These people are here to help you.
And we're going to throw some resources up on the podcast for those watching the video. We'll have some numbers and resources come across the screen.
That'll be easy. Yeah.
With our editor.
Yeah, the editor. I'll edit that in. You know, talk about I think this is a beautiful transition, and we've already covered most of it in regards to environmental wellness. This is the shit we're talking about with environmental wellness. Yes, you can, check out, nature. You can go on walks. You can clean area, but in the environment you have and who you surround yourself, to me, is keeping track of my personal environmental wellness. Who do I talk to? Who do I check in with? Who do I get coffee with? Who do I reach out when I am drowning? Right? When I am feeling good.
And what is in your proximity?
Yeah.
What resources?
Right.
What do you have in your toolbox?
That's the environment when we're talking about environmental wellness to me. Do you guys agree with that?
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, it makes sense. Going back to what Chico was talking about just a second ago, and hopefully it ties in with what you're talking about. We're discussing people that maybe aren't doing so hot, maybe aren't doing as well with a career, with family, whatever, and they recognize that. But what are they going to do about it?
Yes.
What can you control?
Right.
Yeah.
Going off what Howie said, and what we're talking about here is you can control yourself. You can control your response to things. You don't have to try to control your emotions. But if you recognize them, it can make a huge difference. Those things they can go away. But being conscious and being aware. There's so many tricks of the trade about mindfulness and awareness that I use to get out of my hole of self-pity and, hey man, I'm a piece of, you know what. You wake up in the morning, typically what's the first thing we do? We go take a leak.
Yeah, for guys. So,
Yeah. Well, you know what the sad thing
Or
is?
sometimes we wake up 2 or 3 times during the night.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not there yet.
You're getting there.
What do you do?
Plus, you get to 40.
What do you do first thing in the
Check
morning?
cell phone.
Check the
Yeah.
cell phone. I haven't watched the news, actual news, since 2015.
Yeah.
I'm with you about that. We cut
Right.
cable about that time.
Yeah. But when I wake up in the morning, and I still do this to this day, I come up with like 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. Because that creates a fantastic mood. That's something.
That orients you towards gratitude.
Yes, and you know what kind of emotion that creates? It's a
Positive.
a positive
Yeah.
emotion. So
And doing that a couple of weeks makes it a habit. Which
Thank
is
you.
a good thing.
Absolutely. And you know what that is in the morning? That's an effing choice.
Yeah.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah.
If you're having issues and you're listening to this right now, that's a fantastic way to start. And let me tell you, it's gonna steamroll your day. It's gonna make it so much better. Leave the cell phone alone for a little while. Get up.
Shut the alarm off
Shut
and
the-
put it back down.
Yeah, and think about things that you're grateful for. And we all have something. We're all upright. If you wake up, you're breathing, darn it.
Yeah.
Think about things you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And put it together on a daily basis. And like Howie said, that becomes a habit. And get your butt moving. If you're down, you're depressed, you want to lay down, you don't want to get up, you got the blankets pulled over your head, you're in a closet hiding from the world, get up and get moving a little bit. Just force yourself to move.
What's the law of inertia?
Yeah.
I mean, as a psychologist,
And you
I
know
believe
how to do
it applies not just to objects in motion or at rest.
Yeah.
It applies to psychology,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
It's hard to start stuff, but boy, once you get a couple steps, like starting an exercise program or do something, first couple days suck, but boy, if you can get your butt in that gym,
Sweep the floor.
it's easy.
Do dishes.
Yeah.
Do something.
Just
Just
once
move.
you get started, it's a lot easier, and you always be like, why was I sitting there wallowing for 20 minutes dreading this? Because boy, 5 minutes into this, lifting, running, whatever, biking, I feel a lot
Walking.
better already.
Just
Yeah.
walking.
I was just talking to a buddy of mine yesterday that retired out of DOC just a few months after I did. This guy's also retired military. We're both dealing with some old man health issues, bad knees, bad shoulders, bad back.
I'm with you, Howie.
Yeah, and in talking to him, we both were in total agreement. I have my days to where sometimes I just got no energy, and I got to force myself to get up and start doing something. But once I do, man, I feel so much better.
The world kind of opens up to you.
Yeah, and in the 2 years and 2 months or whatever it is that I've been retired, I can probably count the number of days on one hand where I've done nothing. because I just didn't feel like doing anything.
That's
Stay-
awesome,
stay-
man.
just like you said, I was in motion, tend to stay in motion.
Yes.
Get your butt up and do something. There's always
Anyway,
something.
we we get caught in that rut, it's good for you. A couple of days that you haven't done, that's awesome. I mean, that's admirable, it really is. Because I've got caught in ruts where I'll sit in my basement with an Xbox controller in my hand. Next thing I know, it's 5 hours later.
But turn the rut from 5 days to 4 days, right? Turn that rut from 4 days to 3 days. You're going to get in ruts throughout your life.
Absolutely.
It's an unrealistic expectation. I think you're always going to hit the mark every time. But that's where that self-reflection and know thyself, hey, I'm getting in a rut. What is this about? I'm actually sick. Do I need this rest? Or do I need to get going? Is that going to be better for me?
And we tend, speaking to a lot of people that are probably going to listen to this, going through their corrections career, maybe early on, maybe towards the end, whatever it may be, financial issues, relationship issues, issues with the kids, health issues, whatever it may be, still find that gratitude in the morning because that's going to get you going on that. And look at those issues as not problems. Look at them as learning experiences. That an opportunity to learn, to get through this stuff, to better myself and better those people around me. Don't get so narrowly focused on one thing.
Yeah.
We got the whole world around us. Go outside at night and look up at the stars, look up at the moon, and realize how just small.
I mean, we could go to our folks in custody with life sentences that have had, hellacious stories, and I guarantee we could get many of them to pick at least 2 or 3 things they're grateful for.
No doubt.
So certainly we can, right? I got a job, I'm still employed, I still got this relationship, I woke up again today, I'm not in too much pain, whatever it is, 3, you're done. And you started that habit.
Yeah, and Howie can probably really attest to this, that weren't you amazed at times by some inmates that had a lot of time to do, not necessarily at Bandea. Bandea was maybe 8 years tops, but they made the absolute most of their situation. And I'm not talking about in a negative way. They kept their butts out of trouble because they had a hobby. That hobby was going to the gym and working out every day. They tucked their shirts in when they were supposed to be tucked in. They didn't back tuck. You know what? Because they focused on, hey, this is my life now. This is my world. And I'm not going to sit around here to Debbie Downer and feel down all day. But I learned a lot by watching a lot of those offenders.
Mm-hmm.
But man, they're making the most. It's their birthday and they're making this huge dip and the guy's smiling. And it's not a fake smile. He's having a blast with his homies, playing cards. He's just having a prison dip. And here I am feeling sorry for myself when I leave, when I got a fantastic paying job, a vehicle that's nice, and a beautiful family at home. Here I am feeling, what is wrong with me?
You got a vacation plan, whatever it is.
Exactly, but taking that focus, putting it back on yourself, and taking self-responsibility and saying, hey, I'm the one that can snap out of this.
Well, that can be intoxicating. I think that negative aspect, it can be intoxicating. You feel it, and then it's blinding.
Well,
it's like wearing those glasses, and all you're going to see is the blue if you got blue glasses on.
And as a psychologist, you can probably attest to this because I see it a lot in my family. I know I hope a lot of them don't watch this, but my mom had 9 other brothers and sisters, so I have cousins out the wazoo. I was the only one that was an only child. The rest of them had tons of kids. So I got first cousin, second. But in my family, there's so much negativity. Like I would text you, hey, Uncle Bill's got something going on with his foot.
Yeah, the only time you get contact, well, so-and-so's in the hospital again.
And, trying to break, especially my mom, who I love dearly, out of the habit, because she's dealt with anxiety, and she was raised by that World War II generation. Everything is, they still post it on Facebook. It's like, Mom, I love you, but let's talk about something positive. And just breaking out of that, because that can become intoxicating for people. Yeah. And until they wake up, they could go their whole lives until their deathbed and finally realize that wasn't really that damn
Every
important.
day I woke up, I focused on how bad the weather was, who had what ailment.
Yeah. And that's the choice.
And those aren't going to go away if we don't pay attention to them, right? So it's not like we're keeping them there by paying attention to them or changing them. But certainly we can enjoy the good more.
Absolutely.
We don't have to put our energy towards those things. We can acknowledge them. Say, Aunt JoJo's got a hernia going on. That's okay. Send her some flowers. Hey, you guys want to go grab some?
Is JoJo doing okay?
Yeah, JoJo's all right.
Good. Tell Aunt JoJo something.
I thought him getting a random little attacks there.
You what? Did you have a hernia?
Aunt JoJo and I don't have a record player.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're not talking about. He really has an Aunt JoJo.
You got to remember, Joe, you've already won the fight because you're
Right.
Don't take it personal.
Right. time to
After this podcast,
And
you get to go home.
Just and the main thing dealing with that depression, don't label yourself with that. Don't carry that with you. If you're dealing with it, hey, let's get some help. Get you some help. You can even reach out to me on Facebook.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm not a professional, but I've been through a lot, and maybe we can direct you to somewhere that you can get some professional help.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of it, man. It's 2023. I got it right. It's 2023. You know,
First three documents I filled out this week, screwed them all. 22. Screwed them all. 22.
but it's a more accepting corrections. It really is. And if there are people around you that don't accept you, man, that's not your friends.
And I do think our newer generation, having taught a few college classes, been at the academy, they are a more empathic or sensitive group, and that's a plus where they've been exposed to many different walks of life, had more understanding of mental illness. So we hope that can play to our advantage in keeping people healthy.
I think the exposure, because of basically the way social media has been exposed to it so much more. Yeah,
they certainly had hard times too, and hard times aren't a stranger to any of us. They're just different for everyone. Well, I want to get close to wrapping up as we're getting far in the time, but I want to just maybe hit anything on financial wellness or life after corrections. And again, we're not asking for do you invest in Bitcoin or anything, but just just so folks have an idea. I know we hear about a pension, but it's sort of a dream until you get that first check after that.
Which takes a long time.
Taking care of your health insurance, other ways other things you do to kind of support yourself financially before or after.
So how long did it take you to get your first check once you were out?
It's over 2 months.
I had mine under 2 months. I've heard of people going 6 months before they get their first
They,
check.
when I sent my
Which is
paperwork
crazy.
in, they lost it. So about 2 weeks before I retired, I said, man, I ain't heard nothing from him. So I got a hold of a lady in Springfield. She was super helpful, and she was like, "Ralph, I'm sorry, but we don't have a guy. It shows a receipt that you sent this in. We don't have a copy of it anywhere." Had to redo it, send it back in. But whoever I dealt with up here was absolutely amazing. She was. I can't remember her name. I wish I could. But plan for that more. I'm not the greatest with money. I never have been, but I'm at a place now where I won't say his name. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan says he has the FU money.
Yeah, I'll never have that.
I don't have the FU money, but I got enough money coming in that I can pay my bills and I have money left over and choose if I want to do something on the side. I'm not forced to do anything. But my advice to younger people is don't burn your time for silly reasons. Save your time. Use your time wisely, especially if you have family.
Yeah.
Use that time for family because the older you get, I was lucky towards the end of my career. I had time saved up. For the first time in my career, I'd actually saved up time. My dad got sick and he passed away, but the last 2 months he was alive and he was on his deathbed, I got to spend every day with him.
Yeah.
And wow, how magical
Glad you
is
made
that?
this decision.
Absolutely.
So same thing with me. I used time when I was a youngster, just like most people do. But towards the end, when my dad started going downhill, as I got older, I ran into some kidney stone issues and I had back surgery. Was out for a month and a half with that. Other stuff, I never missed a check. And when I retired, I had enough time on the books to get a pretty decent check to tide me over until my pension check did start coming in. You only get that pension check once a month, and
that's a big change.
Yeah, it is, and it's on the 19th. Why they picked the 19th, I have no idea.
It's odd.
But as far as financial planning, I was in deferred comp for not quite 20 years. But when I retired, I had enough in that to pay off our farm, pay off some other bills, and we're basically living debt-free.
Good for you.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I know that was some of the advice. So when my dad had already retired by the time I started, and I don't recall the guy's name that came and spoke to us at PSOT here, but they kind of gave us a spiel on that. Listen, put aside whatever you think you can do and you won't miss, and increase it more. Don't look at it too heavily when you're young.
Yes.
And then as you get to your mid-career,
Let it ride.
change the risk a little bit,
Yes.
throughout your career and earn that money and, play the long market, not the short market.
Yeah, back in, was it 2008, I think, the big crash?
Yeah.
I lost a lot of money in deferred comp, but it all came back. It
Right.
took a while.
And just like now, you just got to be patient. One thing I will say, men, women, regardless of who you are, relationship issues. If you go, and Howie might jump in on this, you go through a divorce, get your butt a lawyer, get you a good lawyer, because I paid out the wazoo when I retired to my last ex-wife, and nothing against her. Her and I are good friends. We co-parent wonderful. She's a wonderful woman, but there's a lot of money, big chunk of change, because she was entitled. I was married 7 years. She was entitled to, I won't say a percentage of my retirement time. So I died.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Right. And it's not anything to get upset about, because it's not something I can control, but it's something you got to deal with.
You got to understand and know the consequences of all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put
To
it.
be informed. I mean, I don't imagine.
Right.
I don't know if we're teaching that, to the cadets. Hey, by the way, and again.
And it's not, it wouldn't be a bad thing to just throw in there and say, hey, just be aware of this, we go through, because it's a lot
You're
of.
planning on getting all of it, and 10 or 20% of it's gone,
Yeah.
and then you're forced to work, right?
Exactly.
Like if you want to work, that's great.
And luckily I had enough money stashed that it still hurt, man. It still hurt. But it is what it is. I don't begrudge anybody. I don't begrudge the system or her. It is what it is. But yeah, that's something that maybe should be thrown at people. Is
To just know a little
Just
bit
to
more,
know.
plan a little bit better.
get you a professional that, hey man, this is what's going on here. So because when you get to the end and next thing you know, wow, I'm not getting that. She's getting that, and I'm getting this, or he's getting that.
Yeah,
I mean, just to be aware of it.
And you got to think long term, because I can remember the day I hired in. Sometimes it seems like it was yesterday.
Yes.
That was 33 years ago and change.
Mhm.
It goes by fast. You got to think, and even for the people that have only been in 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to be retired before you know it, and you got to plan ahead. And going back to the deferred comp thing, that was always my plan, even before I was married, had kids, whatever. I wanted to have enough money when I left to pay off whatever debts I had, so I could relax.
Yeah.
And
that's what you
and I
did.
can finally do that.
Right.
So.
It's a lot. How
And it took 31 years to get there.
But
It's
that's
not going to happen overnight. So,
long-term goals.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that money out and saying, hey, I need a new vet, I need a new truck.
And we all go to parking lots and see some of the folks spending a majority of the paycheck on those really nice
yeah.
four-wheel drive trucks. That's your decision.
$80,000.
Yeah. They're not getting cheaper. But
Right.
I've also, on the flip side of that, I've seen officers, and they've worked their whole career as officers, probably could have promoted, and they have worked strategic overtime, been on other things, and invested wisely, and done and lived really, really well.
Well, the retirement system, the way it's set up, is kind of skewed a little bit to where you can put it. I don't know if it's changed, but we had lieutenants putting in overtime towards the end of their career. I mean, just basically going in on 11/7, going in the office, locking the door, and doing whatever they do, and just, getting that as a retirement level, and it is what it is. There's loopholes in the system that you can take advantage of. It does put the state in a not so good position sometimes.
But even besides all that, you just work your 40 hours, just do whatever. I think the thing to remember, and if there's any folks outside of corrections that are considering coming in, sometimes the podcast will talk about the negative, but here we have two folks who positive, very positive outlooks on their career for the whole time, and we have amazing health insurance, all kinds of other benefits we don't even realize.
Right.
Scholarships, things for kids, certain state schools, kids get into for cheaper. There's all kinds of amazing programs.
When I go get my medicine for my neck, my back, the type of medicine
I feel like that's on my neck.
Yeah.
My back.
let's continue with that song. But anyway, I go up there and some lady in front of me, she's got to pay $80 copay. I go up there, it's about $232,
Yeah.
$868.
Yeah.
And that very rarely over $10 a copay. And every time I do that, I'm thankful. I'm like, what? I'm thankful for my corrections career. Not only did I meet a lot of amazing people, but it also matured me as a person. But look at one of the benefits I get. And also, I take my kids to the doctor.
Yeah, and before you've got dependents on your program, you've got to pay for childbirth, which is expensive, or somebody has a surgery. You're a young single guy, you maybe get 1 or 2 colds a year, you go get some NyQuil and you're fine. You don't think about how advantageous this insurance is, but you get to our age, we've had a couple friends, unfortunately get cancer, it's too common, and even folks that have really great paying jobs work for insurance companies, and the kind of benefits we have, where I'm very thankful to be in the situation I am.
Absolutely.
Growing up a corrections kid, the money brought us into kind of a working middle class environment, but the health benefits, right? We were always going to be cared for, healthy, good, dental, good optical, all those things are just so
And
important.
if you're young,
You can't always put a price tag on it.
if you're young and you have a family, man, and if you need a job, this corrections is a pretty good place. I mean, yeah, it has its negatives like any other job.
Well,
But-
If you handle it, right? You got to be proactive. And
Right.
my back surgery in 2016 cost me $250.
Wow.
How can you complain?
$70,000 hip surgery and one heart surgery. They're both about $140,000 total. 200 to 200, whatever the deductible.
Isn't
is.
that incredible?
I mean, it.
So you younger people that are listening to this podcast.
Well, and some of my non-corrections friends, I know what I pay for insurance for myself, my wife, and 2 kids, and then I see what some of my non-corrections friends are paying for
It's
insurance.
through the roof.
Yeah, and
Right.
you go through your contract. Well, they're going to raise your monthly premium $20 or whatever.
Okay.
And people throw a fit about it. Man, look at what some of these other
Right.
people got.
Look at the cost of living and what's going on in the world compared to what we have. We're,
Yeah.
we're very lucky individuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of officers, probably whatever staff, going to be listening to this, probably haven't even thought about that because they're young. They haven't come to that
Put
crossroads.
that on their gratitude in the morning. Hey,
Right.
I've got great health insurance. Maybe I don't need it.
Well, there'll come a point for a lot of these young corrections people, they're going to wake up one morning like I did and not be able to walk
Mm-hmm. Been there.
and not know why. So,
Yep.
yeah, hang on to your time. You're going to need it sooner or later.
Your posture. I know this is kind of off base and a little silly, but seriously, your posture at work. Because I know how I probably said as much as I did. At Vandea, the way we were set up, housing units are open dorms. So you got a desk, and then you got about 10 feet, you got a wall, which is open basically with the bars. You have 100 inmates in a dorm environment. They're up there taking a dump right by you. They're taking a shower. They're taking a whiz. They're cleaning their bowls. The phones. Back in '96, they had ping pong tables up there. So from here to that desk, which is about 5 feet, all night long, playing ping pong. I mean, just the noise and things. But watch your posture, guys. Your neck, your back will thank you later. When you're sitting in these state chairs, watch your posture, man. Be conscious. Be aware of it. Or you're going to end up like me, Howie, getting surgery.
Good advice.
Spend the money on a good pair of boots.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself. Be
Yeah.
aware of what's going on because that can catch up to you in your later years. When you're in your 20s or 30s, you're not thinking about it.
Right.
One day you wake up like Howie and you can't walk. I mean, it'll happen.
Yeah. All great advice,
Yep.
and I want to thank Chico and Howie for coming. They both had to make a drive up here on their own dime. They came up just to share and spend time with us. Certainly got into a lot of vulnerable stuff, and I really appreciate opening yourself up so our listeners can get a better understanding of what you've been through and what they might go through and how to handle it. I think that's the end of our shift. 4 shifts over.
Thank you for the shit.
We'll see you at the next one.
Thanks for joining us.